Hey, all you beautiful people. Mike Rocaro here, Mr. Utah Real Estate. And today I have with me
David Contreras. Now, some of you might know me as the actor selling homes.
The actor selling homes.
The same person.
So you got Mr. Utah Real Estate and the actor selling homes all together in one podcast today. And this is your first time on my podcast, our podcast.
Exactly. First time ever. I've been with this broker's Real Estate Essentials for the last year, a little over 13 months. And not once have I utilized this room. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, welcome to the podcast room. And hopefully this will be one of many podcasts we do together.
First one before we go viral.
So how long have you actually been in the real estate business?
As a real estate agent, we are going on 6 years. Now, back in 2007, 2008, I was actually a loan officer. So I was still in the real estate market. I was back 21 back then, so very young. This is right before the 2008 market crash. So I did literally three deals. One refinance and 2 home loans, and that's when the market crashed.
And then it went south on that, man.
And then I just went to the University of Utah. I got my degree in TV broadcasting and journalism, hence why Real Estate Essentials on Utah and ABC4 appealed to me because I knew about this brokerage and the influence on TV.
So actor. So did you do some acting? Actor selling homes?
The actor selling homes. So back in 2019, when I came into real estate, my former broker at the time, actually his wife, told me that I had to rebrand. I had to stand out because, as you may already know, we have just in Salt Lake County about 10,000 agents. So what do you do to stand out? Because everybody and their dog has an agent. Has a license, a real estate license. So what could I do to stand out? What would be my brand? So I'm a soccer player, so I was like, well, what can I do with my name in soccer? I'm like, that doesn't really work. But then I was like, you know what? Since age 15, I've been in front of the cameras. I've done acting, modeling, and I was like, you know what? The actor selling homes, that kind of has a ring to it. People are going to ask, like, hey, so what are you doing? And it's actually helped for real estate because up until about 2-3 years ago, there was UTA Transit. They were having a social media campaign with me, and not only social media, but the trains and the buses in towns in Salt Lake City would have my the whole side of the train would have my face on it. Or RC Willie, I did a few commercials and I was selling mattresses on TV, and people would literally go up to me at the gym. I don't think people understand the concept of a paid actor. They'd go up to me and start asking me about mattresses. Right. But then like, actually, I don't sell mattresses. I actually sell real estate. So it's actually helped. So right. Hence why the actor selling homes.
So now people come up to you and say, tell me about real estate, and then you can help them with that now, right? No more mattresses. So don't ask me
no more mattresses. I'm retired out of the mattress game.
Well, I'm glad to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Finally get you into the podcast room. We've been talking about getting this going for a while. And you specifically wanted to talk about the Utah Valley, the Utah area, how it's grown, and specifically how the Olympics has really changed how people look at Utah and the values of real estate and everything real estate related. So why don't you just let us know? I mean, what are you seeing as far as
it definitely put us on the map. Referring to the 2002 Winter Olympics, it put us on the map. 2002. I still remember. I was 17 years old. I was in high school. I still remember when 2002 came along, and I was an inline skater, and one of my buddies was one of the I don't know if it was the Silver Eagles or Golden Eagles in the opening ceremony. So it was like
the Golden Eagles, yeah.
And one of them got casted as one of the Eagles, and during that time it was awesome being downtown. You told me you lived downtown, right?
Yeah, I lived downtown during the 2002 Winter Olympics. It was awesome. I loved it.
It was very cool. Everybody walking around with their big jackets with the Olympic rings and their berets, and it was a really fun experience, right? And as a whole, when it comes to real estate and putting that brand and putting Salt Lake City and Utah on the map, I know Mitt Romney was involved. He was a huge part of it. But there was a huge investment in the infrastructure of Salt Lake City downtown to kind of connect everything and definitely cater to bigger audiences. One big change was, if you guys remember, which right now if you walk through it is not as glitzy, but the gateway was brand new in preparation, right? That downtown area off at 300 West was brand new, and it was exciting walking down there. I remember on weekends, not only during the Olympics but even after, because there was a huge lasting effect. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is how the 2002 Winter Olympics brought the world to Utah and the lasting effects, which now we kind of come full circle, because for the few of you that may be living under a rock, 2034, Salt Lake City is getting the Winter Olympics yet again.
Winter Olympics are coming back. I love it. Yeah, yeah. That is an exciting thing, and yeah, I agree too. I mean, when I remember the 2002 Winter Olympics, like we said, I lived downtown at the time. Me and my buddy, we lived down there, and we would just walk, a few blocks into the downtown area, and just take part in the excitement of the Winter Olympics. It was so fun, and I gotta say, I remember the Foo Fighters came. Shout out to the Foo Fighters, one of my favorite bands. They came and they played the arena where their bands were playing outdoors. We couldn't get into it; they were sold out, but we listened from the outside. You could hear everything. If you could get in the right spot, you could peek in there. You could see the Foo Fighters on stage. Yeah, so sorry, Foo Fighters. I didn't pay for the show, but I still enjoyed it.
They're watching.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was pretty cool. But there was a lot of cool stuff going on at that time, and then the growth since then has been amazing.
And and it's not just we were put on the map. Now the world knew not only about the greatest snow on earth, but there was a lot of things that came after it. And 2025 here, we're taking advantage of those things that started in 2002. The real estate market, the huge influx of residents since then. We're talking about 20 plus years. Actually, what am I talking about? Yeah, 23 years, right? And there's a lot of things that we started seeing in preparation for the 2002 Olympics. Like I said, Gateway was one area that was completely revitalized. Tracks was put in there, so to unify the outskirts of Salt Lake City going into the downtown area, right? That injection of funds that came in through urban development. I was just telling you off mic right before we started recording. One thing is I recently read that not a lot of cities around the U.S. get new airports. The fact that we have a brand new airport is very unique because we talk about O'Hare, LaGuardia, the different Dallas. They get expanded. They just get added on. The fact that we have a brand new $30 billion investment into a new airport, that is crazy. Yeah. That is unique. Yeah. Now, why did it not add a tram for you to connect the A terminals to the B terminals, and then you have to do that mile walk? I don't know.
I think they're still working on some of that stuff. Yeah. So
I don't know about that.
For you folks, I don't know. The airport is fairly new within the last couple years.
Like four
and
years.
I believe there's still parts of they're still building. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
But the fact that there's a new airport, right? So we got new highways. We have new shopping centers. I mentioned the Gateway, but leading up to that, we have City Creek, which has been named, I know, various years as one of the top outdoor malls, shopping centers in the United States.
And it's very beautiful during Christmas time too.
Exactly. So again, the life,
Galvin Center,
the life that Utah kind of has become, like we know the quality of life. We live here, hence why a lot of people from across the nation have been coming to Utah. In these 6 years of real estate, I've had the pleasure of helping a lot of people relocate. From Washington, California, from New York, from Florida. Now, I do a lot of stuff, and hence why the Actors Selling Homes. I do a lot of stuff on YouTube. I do a lot of walkthroughs, not only about properties, but I talk about certain areas. And people, unless you have direct connections to Utah, whether you have family, you used to live here, you might not know the difference between, let's say, the Sugar House area, Lehigh, Park City, Tooele, Magna. You might not know that as much. Right. So the way that I kind of started the channel was to basically educate people from out of state as to what you're gonna get for X amount of dollars, and by the East Bench versus, let's say, Daybreak, which is one of those areas that we're talking about the lasting effects of the 2002 Winter Olympics. That as time went on, and even the 2008, I mentioned that I was a loan officer in 2008. The whole nation was affected. There's no denying. However, Utah was affected, but they were very resilient because quickly after, in the 2010s and 2020s, which we're seeing, there's been an exponential growth in just people from all over, and not only the nation, but across the world. I'll say this, and I'll let you get a word in. Speaking of City Creek, so 2021, I was eating lunch at right there, City Creek, across the street. If you know the area, you have Temple Square, and I was eating, I think it was a Blue Lemon with my kids, and I noticed this guy a few feet from me just staring at me during the whole lunch, and I started getting bothered. I'm like, what is up with this guy? What is he looking at? And at one point, he stands up, he comes over to us, to our table, and he pointing at me, he's like, You're the YouTube real estate guy, huh? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I follow you from Canada. And then that week, I met another guy from Northern Africa and Tunisia that followed me and wanted to buy in Daybreak. So it's just crazy that, and again, social media, we all know the world has changed since 2002. You imagine 2002, had we had social media, we'd have a lot more content from back then. But now with the 2034 on its way in preparations for it, imagine, it's going to be a huge branding project for Utah.
Speaking of YouTube, if you're watching this on my channel or David's channel, don't forget, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. We appreciate you guys following us, and I'm sure you appreciate all your followers as well.
We all want not just being followed or subscribed to, but it's just educating the public, whether it's local or out of state. If you come across either of our channels or social media, we are real estate agents at the end of the day. This is our job, but at the same time, the reason why we're doing it is because we like Utah, hence why we're here.
I love Utah. I've lived in various different places. I've lived in Hawaii, I've lived in California, I've lived in Nevada. I've traveled to quite a few places. I always come back to Utah. I always come back here. It's all around just a great state. I love it.
Now we know that, as time goes on, the word affordability, now it's used in hushed tones. Utah used to be one of those markets that it was very affordable. Now, since especially 2020, 2021, post-pandemic, it's not as expensive as California or the East Coast or Hawaii or anything like that, but we are getting a little bit more expensive.
We've gotten very popular. We have a great business economy. It's really easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's a lot more easier, I guess, as a state to run business than it is other states. So we have a lot of business that come. We've got the Silicon Slopes here, right?
Right.
Where a lot of the tech companies have moved over here to Utah. A lot of the healthcare companies have moved over here to Utah. So they bring that economy with them. They bring that business. Utah's gotten very popular over the last
2 decades.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, real estate prices have followed that. Supply and demand. The more demand for it, but we're catching up on the supply part. So.
And you mentioned the Silicon Slopes. I actually live in Lehigh, just 15 minutes from the Silicon Slopes. So we used the word influx at the beginning of this recording, right? The influx of residents since 2002, and it's only it's been on steroids ever since even towards the end of the 2010s, and especially into going to the pandemic in these last few years, from everywhere in the world. And there's areas that just attract people by the thousands. Silicon Slopes being one of them. The tech sector has been amazing. The growth that the tech sector has had, and we're talking about Lehigh, Silicon Slopes, but now there's other projects that are kind of tagging along. Speaking of Silicon Slopes, we have Draper. Now, if you're a local to this market, you know that at the point of the mountain in Draper, we used to have the maximum and lower security prisons that have been demolished since, within the last year.
Yeah.
And now the plans, if you have time, look at the pointutah.org, the project that is going on in those, I don't know how many acres, but it's huge. As you're going on south or northbound on I-15, pointing the mountain, you'll see huge space, huge acreage. And what are they going to do? They have renderings of what, essentially their plan is to extend the Silicon Slopes from Lehigh going into Draper. So we're going to be obviously having a lot more multifamily units. There's not as big, but I heard that we're going to have somewhat of our own Central Park. Let's not say as big as Central Park in New York. There's going to be an ice rink, I heard. Obviously, lots of businesses, lots of community engagement, right? Kind of like what Daybreak, and that's another project that has been growing a lot, is Daybreak. I remember the stat I used to throw on my channel until recently is that 1 in 6 homes that are sold in Utah is inside Daybreak.
Yeah, I actually sold a property out in Daybreak I didn't sell one. We went and we looked at properties. I had a buyer looking at properties in Daybreak, and we went to the main Daybreak real estate, where I guess it was the development's office where they showed all the developments of Daybreak. And at this time, this was about 5 years ago, I guess. And if you don't know the Daybreak area, it's a big chunk of land, and they told us that the final vision for Daybreak was to build all the way to the mountain, which was huge. I mean, it's hard to kind of explain how big that is, but it's huge. That might turn into the largest city in Salt Lake Valley.
I don't see how that can't be achieved, because yes, I remember when Daybreak started being in the conversations. This is back when I was a loan officer back in 2007. They were talking about Daybreak, right? And you would hear the prices back then, which now it's not as big, but back then we were like, oh man, 300,000, 400,000, like what is this, right?
Right.
And now Daybreak is having properties that are sold in the 3 to 4 millions, which is, especially around the Ochre Lake, you have some crazy properties that are going into those multiple $1 million properties.
And if you're not familiar with Daybreak also has housing of all types. I mean, you've got condos to townhomes to multi-million-dollar homes. All of them fit together too. It's not like you got a condo or a townhome next to $1 million home that just doesn't fit. Just everything looks beautiful. It fits. It
attracts everybody.
It's a beautiful city. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you know, Daybreak, and if you ever come from you out of towners that come across our channel, if you ever are in the Salt Lake City area and you're thinking about, you know, where do I invest my money? Depending on the county, we're part of Salt Lake County. Daybreak is a little development within South Jordan, which is around, what would you say, 25 minutes, depending on traffic, from downtown Salt Lake City, southwest of the valley. And Daybreak is just one of those projects that has attracted, like I said, 1 in 6 homes sold in the state of Utah is within Daybreak. So it's a completely different take on real estate, right? It's not cookie cutter in the fact that, you know, we're going to be getting all the colors in the spectrum in the facade of these homes. Like Micah just said, you know, it could be $1 million properties, but it could be condos, townhomes, duplexes, anything. I'm not a baseball guy, but recently I saw something on social media. They're about to open the new home of the Salt Lake Bees, the AAA baseball, and it's inside of Daybreak. They moved it from downtown Salt Lake into Daybreak, so that's going to bring even a bigger crowd of people.
Just the whole development of that area is just it's like a city inside the city.
Exactly,
it's its own city inside the city. So yeah, it's beautiful, and like we're talking about Daybreak too. I mean, you've got everything from low maintenance yards where you're, you know, a little tiny strip of land, and if that's what you are, you're a professional that doesn't have time for the maintenance of the yard. You can get that all the way up to big old lots, $1 million homes. So it's a beautiful mix of everything. Modern homes. It's a really great, beautiful area. Lakes. There's lakes there. You can fish.
Exactly.
You kayak. I mean, it's right there. You got a lake right there next to your house. I
mentioned Ochre Lake, which is the biggest one. You could say on the east side. It's not necessarily east and west Daybreak, but the way I use it in my head, especially when I'm walking through properties, there is like an east and west Daybreak. The east side is like the more established. That's where you have Ochre Lake. You have the island. You have some beautiful properties. On social media, I don't know if it was last Halloween, the last few Halloweens, they did Barbie. It was all over the news, Barbie town or whatever, where a lot of, like, the whole row of homes coincided that they were going to be, that was when the Barbie movie was out. And you could see it from plane. I remember landing from Detroit, coming to Salt Lake, and you could literally see it from the plane. Everything was pink because everybody decorated for Halloween with pink for Barbie. But we have Ochre Lake. Now, further west, still within Daybreak, we have Cascade Village, and we have the, what do they call it? The water course. So it's not as big as the East Lake, but you still, like you said, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, just a lot of outward. And that's when we talk about Utah has a lot of outdoor, not just Daybreak, but outdoor activities. I think that's something that brings that influx of people. It's this, you mentioned the tech sector, right? But we have a lot of people, and I've had people that I've helped relocate because specifically the outdoor options. It's not just the skiing and the snowboarding. We're talking about people that love
camping, hiking, fishing.
Exactly. Bouldering. There's like rappelling. And
mountain climbing.
Utah has it.
Everything.
Utah has it literally.
Mountain biking, yeah. And we're not too far from, I believe, Moab, which is about 3.5 hours from Salt Lake City, is the #1 destination for mountain bikes and Jeep trails.
Exactly. I
number one in the United States. I do believe. You might want to fact check me on that, but
I think you're right.
I do believe it is the #1 destination for mountain biking and for the Jeep trails is Moab. And
Jeep. I haven't done the 4-wheeling, but there's a lot of people. Obviously, on social media, you see is Utah. Now, whether it's you're into the cold weather activities like snowing or like skiing or snowboarding, stuff like that, which obviously Utah has the best snow on earth. We all know that. But during the warmer months, like you said, 4-wheeling or hiking, whatever. But there's also boating. My wife, she's a huge surfer. You know how they go in boats in like Lake Powell, south of Salt Lake City. What is that about? Like a 3-hour? I haven't gone to Lake Powell recently.
Powell's about 4 hours away.
So about 4 hours. You know, if you're into boating, you can go to Lake Powell, and not even you don't have to go all the way down. If you go up, you got Bear Lake.
Or you've got Bear Lake 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
You got Flaming Gorge about 3.5 hours away. Flaming Gorge is beautiful as well.
Yeah, I remember going there as a teenager.
That's my favorite
cliff
place.
diving. I remember cliff diving.
Yeah, there's so much to do here. If you're an outdoors person, this is the place to be, honestly. We've got 5 national parks. I mean, you've seen the Arches National Park, Canyonlands, there's just so much beauty in Utah.
Hence why, and now going back kind of to what you asked me about the Actors Selling Homes. I've been in the, you could say the film industry since I was 15, doing a lot of commercials. There's been some TVs and movies and whatnot. There's a reason why Utah gets so much attention. It's not just Kevin Costner with like Yellowstone and Horizon. There's a lot of film production in Utah because of the scenery.
Yeah.
And
last time I heard, check me on this one, is I think Utah is the number 3 state for film production.
Heck yeah. So you got California. Everyone knows California is like the big dog, right? Yeah. But you got New York, you got Georgia, which is a huge one, Atlanta. But Utah's a huge one. Whether it's the 3rd or 4th, Utah is huge. Where you're talking about, I actually have one of my buddies. He's the biggest film, you could say, director when it comes to productions that come from California or anywhere else, and they come to Utah. He is the main guy for the casting, for everything else. And he's always working. He's always posting stuff about, certain projects coming to Utah. In fact, I'll say this doesn't, hopefully I'm not going too off of the subject, but one of the last films that I auditioned for, I didn't get it, unfortunately, is Mark Wahlberg. He did a show, I don't remember the name though, but essentially was a film where he was the lead, and the part that I auditioned for was with him, just one-on-one, and it was like based on a true story of this father that lost his son, and then he was on the freeway, and the scene was I pull up in a luxury car, and and he comes to the window, and I give him some water, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, there's a lot of film and TV and everything in Utah, obviously with Netflix and what we get to see on Hulu and Apple. There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of Yellowstone fans out there. Yellowstone's filmed up out this way. And then speaking about getting on films, I actually got myself a little small part on a film as well. Back, it was about, 7-8 years ago, and me and the wife and my daughter, we just was like, let's just try this out and see what happens. But we actually got a little background part in a film called The Jade Pendant. If you ever want to look that up, The Jade Pendant, it's about Chinese immigrants that come over in the Wild West days and how they were persecuted in LA. And anyway, so we got a little part. They built a whole stage. They built a whole western town out in the West Desert, out by the airport. They built a whole western town. It was amazing. And then we watched films you can't even tell the back of the buildings. There's nothing there.
Right.
It's only just one.
The shell.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. So we watched that film and we picked out every part. There's me. I'm watching in the background. And
that's cool.
It was fun. We did 3 days over there. We got to spend, get catered. They bring the food in and you sit in these big tents.
It's fun. It's fun.
It was pretty cool. So yeah, the film industry is really huge out here. I mean, we watch films all the time, and I'll watch a film that looks like the Utah mountains, and I'll wait through the credits to see where everything was filmed. There it is. Yep, the Salt Lake Film, whatever they call it, the Utah Film Commission or something like that. And there it is. Yep. Commission. It's the background of Utah, so a lot of that as well. There's so much going on.
A lot of, and again, whether it's feature films, whether it's series, whether it's documentaries, there's a lot of Utah because Utah is compelling. It's the backgrounds, the beautiful backgrounds, the access to everything. Obviously, there's if we go up down to the details, there's a lot of tax credits that film anyway.
Yeah. And that's another beautiful thing about Utah is they make it really easy to do business here. Our government, our local governments make it easy for businesses to come here and work. Whether it's the film industry or the tech companies or the health industry or
health is huge. Yeah. Utah is I'm not into the medical field at all, and I wouldn't really know much, but I know that Utah's a huge contender when it comes to
the University of Utah.
Whether it's a cancer institute, whether it's
the Huntsman Cancer Institute is huge.
Utah's huge. Yeah. So it's not just the tech sector and the startups that you see, a lot of them that you see on Shark Tank, but it's the health sector. It's the unemployment. We know that Utah has a very low unemployment rate.
Yes.
There's a lot of jobs. There's a lot because of the lifestyle. You get a lot of people that are bilingual, and the employment base is very healthy. It's very solid. And again, a few minutes ago, I mentioned the word affordability. Yeah, that's kind of not used as much anymore, right?
That's a downside.
But at the same time, a lot of jobs, like recently I heard that, was it Adobe that bought Oracle? So we're talking about huge acquisitions, huge companies. I just mentioned two big ones: Adobe, Oracle, Facebook has offices here. Maybe not their headquarters.
Amazon has, I believe, 5 or 6 distribution centers here.
Exactly.
Walmart has a huge distribution center down by St. George. I mean, we've got a lot of. I mean,
So
we're positioned in a really good area of the states where we can, get
we're a
out
hub
to,
for Delta.
Right. So we can, we're right there in between, California and Colorado, and so we were kind of a great place to, like you said, a hub.
And all that
Western states.
And all that is tied to real estate, right? It trickles down to real estate. I have a friend. He didn't use. Well, I met him through his wife, but her husband relocated to Utah because of Vivint. It's one of the huge behemoths, Vivint, and he came in as the legal counsel for Vivint, and they came from Georgia, right? And they were relocated here in Lehigh, and specifically right above the Silicon Slopes. So it's one of the very attractive areas, right? We mentioned Silicon Slopes, we mentioned Daybreak, but there are other really exciting projects. I haven't been down to St. George in a while, but our office in St. George, they're doing some exciting stuff down there for real estate because obviously the warmer weather, not as much snow, but then, when it comes to real estate, there's some crazy developments going on down there.
You speak about the development of Utah. I mean, back in 2002, I worked construction for a long time. My shoulders went out. I had to change careers. I went to school for graphic design. Ended up moving to Hawaii for a job. Well, I moved down there and then got the job down there, but spent 10 years in Hawaii. Got married, met my wife, got married, and we're like, affordability, we can't afford nothing in Hawaii, right? Let's go back to Utah. So we came back to Utah, her first time in the States. So I said, let's fly into Vegas. Vegas is about a 6-hour drive to Salt Lake City. So let's fly into Vegas, spend a day or two in Vegas, and then let's drive up to Salt Lake City, just kind of do a little road trip, show you some of the things, Zion's Canyon's on the way. There's a few things. So we started coming up. I got to the St. George area, which is about 2 hours from Vegas. Got to the St. George, and I used to live in St. George for a little bit. Got to the St. George area, and I was blown away by how much was new in St. George. The development of St. George just blew me. Like the 10 years I was gone, it might be 15 since I spent time in St. George. I was amazed how much it had grown. It boomed. And then we got up into the Lehigh. We finally got up and we got into the Lehigh Provo area, got in through Lehigh, and I was again blown away by how much new. I saw the Adobe sign. I saw all these different signs. Like, what is going on? It's amazing. Not only that, before I went to Hawaii, I mean, it's a Mormon state. There's the Caucasian population is very high here. Not a whole lot of diversity at that time. But when I came back from Hawaii in those 10 years I was gone, I was amazed how many Vietnamese restaurants there were. I saw Afghan restaurants. I saw restaurants from cultures all over the world. And it was like, when did this happen? In the 10 years, it just all of a sudden. And it's just been growing and growing since then. And that was about 20-something years ago since I've been back.
And imagine that.
20-something years since I left. And now I'm back. I've been back for about 10 years now, 10, 12 years now. And it keeps growing and growing and growing.
Both you and I, we've helped a lot of people, relocate from different parts of the country. Parts that, like California is beautiful, but, people are being priced out.
Right.
So what's the next choice? We'll go further inland, Utah, right above and right below us, we have Arizona and Idaho. Those are really, growing real estate markets. But we have, I think, stuff that just, I don't know, you can't match. You can't match with the outdoors and with, again, the lifestyle. Recently, in 2023, we had the NBA All-Star game. Mm-hmm. And so obviously Shaquille O'Neal and then big celebrities. Barkley was, he made the news where he was kind of talking throwing some shade at Utah and the nightlife. And again, Utah is very family friendly, first of all. I love it. I have my 3 kids. I love Utah. I would not leave Utah. We don't have an ocean. Oh, well, but we have a lot of lakes. We have a lot of mountains. We have a lot of outdoor stuff that we can do. And with the lifestyle, there's a lot of stuff that is going to, appeal to a lot of people. And again, whether it's you coming for a different career or relocated because of your job, or you just want something new, something different, something fresh. And again, we've talked about the Silicon Slopes several times already. Daybreak, there's Draper being extended into the Silicon Slopes as well. One very exciting one that I've been seeing with the last year is, have you seen what Holiday, where the old Cottonwood Mall area, what they've been doing?
You say that, when we came back, I used to love the Cottonwood Mall when I was younger. When you're younger,
it was a cool mall.
Well, you'd go to the malls and you'd cruise the malls looking for the girls and everything, right? And Cottonwood Mall would be one of the ones. So when we came back, I told my wife, let's go check out Cottonwood Mall. I loved that mall. It was a great mall. it was gone. I was like, what happened to Cottonwood Mall? So
have you been there recently?
I haven't been there recently, so fill me in.
So it's really cool. So I spotlighted a few different construction, some builds that one of the builders that came from California within the last few years. Have you done anything with Vandal Homes?
I have not.
Not a paid placement by Vandal Homes anyway, but I'm just.
But if you want to use us, you're more than welcome to use us.
So they came in from California, Southern California, and they built a community of townhomes, some luxury townhomes in Daybreak. That was their introductory product. But then they heard about what Holiday, especially that area around the Cottonwood Mall, old Cottonwood Mall, and then they started building some high-end. We're talking about some high-end townhomes, as high as 1.4 million dollar townhomes. Down, I think base price is around 700,000 to 800,000, but they're beautiful. Open, rooftop decks, gorgeous views of the mountains. Awesome. That whole area has always been kind of glitzy, right? Holiday, Utah is an expensive area. Just south of that, you have Cafe Madrid, which is one of my wife's favorite Spanish restaurants. And you have that whole area where famously John Stockton from the Utah Jazz used to live. And we have some crazy lists.
Isn't that the area where Post Malone lives too?
So he lives off of the foot of Cottonwood Canyon, Big Cottonwood Canyon. Okay. Which, in fact,
so that's a little bit more south.
Yeah, being a realtor, being a realtor, you find out a few things. And my wife is a huge Post Malone fan, so we went up to his property, and it's gated. And anyway, there's a lot of security. But Cottonwood area, they're playing. It's a play on words. We know California has the Hollywood Hills. So Holiday is coming up with the Holiday Hills. So there's a lot of high-end shopping that is being built, some high-end apartments, like I said, townhomes, and there's a lot of shopping. And we're talking about high-end shopping. We're not talking about, like XYZ store, like that, like a chain. We're talking about we're talking about that caliber so much that we know California has Rodeo Drive. I'm not joking. Holiday Hills has Rodeo Walk Drive.
Wow.
And so it's a lot of cool stuff. A few of you that
you won't find a Walmart over there.
Not in that specific area. But
if you did, they'd be selling Louis Vuittons there.
Right. So the second location, a lot of you people watching might be fans of Lifetime Fitness. I know Lifetime Fitness has a location in South Jordan. The second location of Lifetime Fitness is going inside of the Holiday Hill. So again, that's one project of many projects. We already heard the news that an MLB team is coming to Utah, hence why the AAA team, the Bees, are being moved out to South Jordan. But an MLB, we don't have the name yet. We're talking about sports. It's attracted a lot of interest from sport franchises. Now we don't know what that team is going to be called, but professional baseball is going to be about west of downtown Salt Lake City. Now, obviously, there's some other sports that have been attracted, right?
Yeah, so we kind of got away from the Olympics. I mean, we love our state so much. We talk about everything, right? We kind of got away from the Olympics, what we wanted to talk about, and the growth since the 2002 Olympics. But you mentioned sports, right? So let's segue back into sports and the Olympics. But yes, we used to have just the Utah Jazz, right, as our professional team.
For many years.
So that was our only professional team was the Utah Jazz. Stockton to Malone, right? Back in the days when they lost twice to Michael Jordan. Jeez.
Oh yeah, I've always been a Bulls fan. I remember being in sixth grade. I was not allowed to say anything but the Bulls because I was very obnoxious.
And Michael Jordan pushed Russell.
Yeah, I met Russell once. Yeah. I thought about bringing that up, but I didn't. So
he pushed Brian Russell. That was a foul. That shot
you can't push anybody with the outside of your hand. We all know that.
It's Jordan, but Jordan can do whatever he wants. But anyway, we get away. But we've now since then we've got a professional hockey team now that just came.
Utah Hockey Club, right?
Last year, about a year or two ago.
Obviously, Real Salt Lake being a soccer player, Real Salt Lake and MLS franchise came.
Real Soccer, which is a major league team as well.
There's also, I just thought of it, isn't there a professional rugby team?
I don't follow rugby that much, but that's, I don't know.
I've seen billboards. I've seen billboards.
And then we just, like you mentioned before, our minor league baseball team moved from the downtown area out to South Jordan to Daybreak. Brand new stadium out there. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. And they're talking about an area off of, I think it's West Temple, South Temple, North Temple. Anyways, it's not too far from the downtown area. They're talking about redeveloping that whole area.
Oh yeah.
Putting a major league baseball field out there so we can attract a major league baseball team now. I'm waiting for the NFL. I want to see the NFL here. That'd be cool.
Just looking, I know that's the one thing that has not been mentioned was NFL. I don't really watch American football, but it just makes sense that a growing metropolitan area in Utah bring an NFL franchise. Yeah, I would think, right? So,
I'm fingers crossed on that one day. We've got University of Utah and BYU, who's our football fans.
That's true.
We've got football, and we've had some great players come out of those two colleges as well. So I mean, sports. Back to the Olympics. We had the 2002 Olympics. It's grown tremendously since that time when the spotlight was on us. Our winter sports, the ski team, I believe, the USA ski team, headquarters in Park City, Utah.
Exactly. So next time you come to Utah, there's there's so much of Utah that I don't think you have enough time to experience.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned Park
We've
City,
already
right?
got off subject with all of our other stuff. There's just so much to talk about.
You go to Park City, whichever season of the year, you can go up to Park City. I don't know how much it is. I haven't done it myself, but you can actually ride the bobsledding track. Mm-hmm. They'll put it on wheels, but you essentially feel the G's that the Olympians feel. That's you can't do that in Vegas. You can't do that in New York. You can't do that in California.
Right, and you can if you get up to it's called the Olympic Park. And they have, like you said, the bobsledding. You can try that out. They also, even during the summertime, they'll have the ski team out there, and
I've seen that.
The long jumps. They'll do their jumps into the swimming pool, which is pretty cool. I mean,
and to music and fireworks. I've actually done that. Yeah. So again, Utah has had a tremendous growth from 2002 and now coming full circle of 2034. When they were discussing. I actually got to meet some members of the Olympic Committee. I don't know how I was in the same room with them, but they were talking about the different contenders, different cities they were looking into, and it just made sense. Salt Lake City, Utah, had the infrastructure. Why go with a town that doesn't have all those and you have to build them from the ground up when Salt Lake City had such successful Winter Olympics?
Well, not only that, what I've heard, and maybe just was just rumors, but what I've heard is that usually when cities get the Olympics, right, they build all these things. They build stadiums, they build the ski slopes, they build everything, and then once the Olympics are gone, those things don't get used anymore.
Right.
And so they kind of fall apart, and they repurpose them for something else. Utah, like I said, we've got the USA ski team that comes out and uses the facility year round. We've got the skating rinks that we have, the hockey teams, a couple of hockey, minor league, major league teams that we use the ski rink. So a lot of the stuff that we built is still used.
Being used.
So it's been upkept, it's modernized. It's why wouldn't you come back here? It's going to cost a lot less this time to do because everything's built already.
So with what we just essentially took 20-30 minutes to talk about, the transition from 2002 leading to 2034. I'm sure you do as much as I do get questions, whether social media, local people outside of Utah people, that always ask, like, well, why should I come to Utah? Where should I invest? Where should I put my money? Right? I've had that question many, many times. Like, if I invest in Salt Lake County, where do I go? I always throw Daybreak. Daybreak's hands down one of the hottest areas. But there's also Harriman, which is next door to South Jordan. It's growing crazy. Now, you're going into Utah County, Lehi, where the Silicon Slopes are. Lehi, if you didn't know, Lehi is the fastest growing city in the state of Utah, followed by Saratoga Springs, which is right next
on the other side of the lake.
To Utah Lake.
Right.
In fact, I had someone that relocated from California to one of the craziest, coolest, most outstanding homes and just very unique home that is just waterside. Very cool. Right there by the marina. And just recently, I also helped an out-of-state client relocate, not necessarily relocate, he bought his third home in Heber. And we had a crazy deal where he just came into with a lot of equity, it's just mind-blowing. So again, no matter where you go, whether you're in the townhomes or in the condo market, you're in single-family or multi-million-dollar or even commercial real estate. When we talk about real estate, we're talking about both real estate in the residential side and commercial.
Commercial as well.
Utah has so much more to offer, and now knowing for a fact that 2034 is bringing the whole world back to Utah, imagine your investment, whatever it is, condo to multi-million-dollar.
Yeah. Depending on the
properties.
lifestyle that you want to live. I mean, if you want a little suburban area with a picket fence, we got that.
The
you want
ROI.
a more modernized area where you don't have a lot of maintenance, we got that in Daybreak. I mean, you want to be up on the avenues where you have the beautiful view and the property values are very high. We've got that up behind the Capitol,
Exactly.
up against the mountain, on the west side, the east side, the south side.
No matter where in Utah.
I mean,
Ogden,
everything.
we talked about film. Ogden is Hallmark USA. If you're into Hallmark, I'm not a fan of Hallmark movies.
My wife
Downtown
is.
Ogden,
She
that
loves
25th Street
she
right
loves
there.
the Christmas movies in July, Hallmark Channel.
Everything about Hallmark, it's always Utah and it's always Ogden.
Yeah,
So,
it's because Ogden is it looks like a little quaint town, right? It's got an older development where it looks like that little movie, the view what you see on the Hallmark Channel, right?
Right.
It's just perfect for it, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just
I'm excited. 2034 with more people coming in. Yes, you know, there's some pros and cons, right? More people coming, more traffic. Hopefully the government will do something about that. But definitely a lot more when it comes to our profession and what we get to do day in and day out is to bring people in and fulfill those dreams. You know, the biggest, one of the biggest investments in someone's life is buying real estate for many. And we got to be right face to face with these people and help them get into a home, whatever that looks like, getting into a home. So I'm very excited about 2034.
Yeah, so we're, as of this filming, 2025. So we're about 9 to 10 years out from the Olympics coming, which will go by fast. I mean,
and again, we're going to start seeing as it gets closer. Real estate is where we're going to start seeing how that's getting closer, because each year that goes and gets closer to 2034, people are already thinking about buying real estate with 2034 in mind.
Yeah. I mean, you could buy now and then in 2034 make a killing if you decided to sell, or you do the Airbnbs. I mean, the Airbnbs, you Airbnb your property during the Olympics.
Can you imagine that?
You could probably make a year's worth of mortgage payments.
Oh yeah,
in just a couple weeks.
We're not exaggerating.
No, I mean those places. Winter Olympics, right? Those places, those Airbnbs are going to be through the roof.
Anyway, I'm so excited. I know we could keep talking about real estate and especially what Utah has to offer, because there's a lot of stuff we didn't mention. So obviously, if whether it's through Micah, through me, any questions that you may have on either social media or YouTube, do let us know, because we're more than happy to answer any questions, and if we don't know the answer, to find that answer.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're not familiar with the area, reach out to us. We can get you very familiar with the area.
Mr. Utah, right?
Yes,
Mr. Utah and the Actor Selling Homes.
Yeah, Mr. Utah Real Estate and the Actor Selling Homes.
Exactly.
And I've Utah's been my home for, besides leaving every so often, I'd spent 10 years in Hawaii. Utah's been my home for 30 something years, 40 years. So I always come back home, like I said, and I just love this place. And
awesome, Micah. So glad I got to do this with you, man.
So yeah, we'll if you guys, again, if you have any questions, let us know. Reach out to us. I'll leave David's information in the comments. If you're watching on his channel, you'll already see it. You'll see my information in the comments, in the description. Thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe, do all that. Leave a comment. Love it.
All right, peace, guys.
Thank you.